Hi, welcome to Leading Your International School TV, where we let the world hear your leadership voice. I'm your host, Tanya Glare, and I'm happy to introduce you my guest, Kelley Ridings. He is an author, a consultant, and a senior school leader with more than 30 years of international experience. Hello, Kelley. I'm glad you are here with us today.
Hi, Tatiana. It's nice to be here. So thank you for inviting me. It's a nice day.
Today's topic is very fascinating for me. It's teaching, hiring process and looking for your first international jobs. Firstly, as an expert in the field of school staff hiring, could you please tell us the difference between international school job searches and those at home?
Yeah, well, there's a very big difference between the two. Probably one of the very first differences that's the biggest for sure is the time frame that it takes to prepare a job search and conduct one properly between the international side and a domestic search. In the international job search, the process usually begins in about October, and it will last through perhaps the whole school year. And so it's an ongoing, very long process. In domestic schools, it tends to be that they're going to start the process later in the semester or later in the school year, rather, and it may just be a very short window. There's also a big difference that there's not probably as much turnaround in a domestic school as it is in an international school, because people traveling internationally, they're living abroad, they're not going to live forever in the place where they're working usually, whereas at home, people domestically, they might be from that town or they've got family there, and so they're a little bit more rooted, and so they're not going to move around quite as much usually, I think. So there's a big difference with that. And also, as an international school, it's a longer process because there's a lot more paperwork, there's a lot more parts that are involved with things like getting visas and all of the legal requirements that have to be met. Of course, there are some domestically as well, but not nearly as many and as complex as they are in an international type of a working situation. Then, plus, also, there's all the logistics that are involved with working and living abroad, and people have to move and plan air travel and shipping and things like that. And so it makes it a much more complex, lengthy process.
What about the environment? When all the paper done, do you feel the same being at the new place, like an international school, or just at the new school in your country? What's the feeling like? What's the environment? What's the vibe? It must be different.
Well, yeah, that's one of the exciting parts of it. So it can have its good parts as well as some challenging parts also. And so the difference, I think, is that a lot of times there's cultural differences. There are things that the way work is done in an international school is going to be different than what we might be used to when we're working domestically in our home country. We're used to the way things are done there. And so it's a different way of doing things can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. So that's a little uncomfortable. A lot of times, of course, if it's a country where the language is different, then all of the communication could be in different languages, the written part as well as some of the spoken part. And so it's a little bit challenging when we first move to a place and don't know the language and don't know all the cultural parts of it very well. And so it can be a little bit of a challenge. But on the other hand, that's what also makes it exciting. I think also it is the schools themselves can be very similar perhaps to what we might have worked with back home domestically. They might be set up in a very similar way with similar kind of curriculum structure and personnel structure and so on. But because so many of the people who we are working with come from all over the world, it's a very diverse workplace. And so international schools are exciting places to be because we have a chance to work with so many people from all over the world.
Exactly. You just mentioned that the language will be different, language of the country, but it's not only that thing, probably, because of another aspects as like even non-verbal communication might be done differently, and a lot of things what you probably won't expect in your own country. How to deal with it?
The employee themselves coming in, they have to be more patient and understanding that not everybody is going to have 100% fluency and proficiency in language. So it takes time to get used to that. They can't speak perhaps as quickly. They can't use all those idioms and the expressions that they might be used to using. And so it takes a bit of time in doing. I think, though, that people have to be aware that most of the people now that they're going to be working with in international schools, a good deal of them anyway, are not going to be first, uh, say, for example, the school's the main language is English. Not everybody's going to be a native English speaker. And so, both as employees and same thing as with students. And so it takes some awareness of that. And also it requires a little bit of training. You know, people have to learn to work a little differently. They can't just speak as they would to a fellow native speaker and native language speaker. So it does take some time to figure out, but that also I think is part of the fun of it too. So
Exactly. Yeah. We all know that. We've been there. So, we are going to carry on talking about this great topic as international school, looking for a new job as an international teacher in our next chapters of this interview. Please stay with us, like this video and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you very soon. Leading Your International School is an international school leadership consultancy and member organization. We support school principals and those who aspire to become one with mentoring, training, and ongoing personal and professional development.